Okay, let's see. Live. And I'm going live on YouTube. We're now live on Instagram. So if you see me looking back and forth, I have my phone up for Instagram, YouTube up on my computer. And Lila is coming to say hi to us. I had to switch my spot last minute because Lila wanted to play. I'm going to show her on Instagram. Say hi, Lila. Hi. You want to say hi to people on YouTube? Hello. And of course, in true entrepreneurial creative fashion, I had a topic today for SOPs to go live and talk about how SOPs can save you money, to talk about SOPs, what they are, how to develop them. But I feel like that gets talked about so much. And the root point of that is what we're going to be talking about today, which is underneath that not everyone, but a lot of people miss talking about is human error and mistake proofing your business. So she's like climbing up me right now. So I was on my mastermind call this morning and I had an onboarding call yesterday, and my new client, we were talking about team management, things falling through the cracks, client onboarding, client management. Do you want to come up here? Client management, and just how to help prevent mistakes from happening or potential human error. So mistake proofing, one of the leading causes of mistakes and rework in businesses is human error. So human error makes up about 60 to 80% of accidents, especially in high risk industries. Now you might be thinking, I'm not in a high risk industry. I'm in a service provider. I'm a service provider. I do marketing. Oh, there goes the phone. Oh my God, Lila. We're having troubles here. Okay. You might be thinking, I am not in high risk industry. I'm in marketing, or I'm in, web development. But to your clients, it might seem like life or death sometimes, especially when it comes to websites, or whatever it is that they're having issues with at the time. I know my clients think things are life or death sometimes, which they are not. But when it comes to mistakes in your business, it could potentially be the difference in making a sale, or Lila, making a sale or losing a sale. It could be the difference between keeping a client or losing a client. It could be just a difference in what makes a good relationship with your client versus creating some struggles or disdain in your business relationship with your clients. So with that being said, mistake proofing in your business is actually studied, and a lot of entrepreneurs, service providers, small business owners don't think about human error, or they don't understand the core causes of this human error, and they just immediately think people are incompetent. But there is always a percentage for error, even in statistics. I don't know if anyone took statistics in college, but I did, and there was always a percentage that we had to factor in for error, and there was percentages of deviance, like the what was it? Whatever. The word is escaping me, but you understand that there's like a percentage that is for error, and human error is just human nature. Ow, Lila, stop. Hi. Hi. You want to be on too. I know. Say hi. You just want to say hi. So human error is a big factor of that, and it can cost you a ton of time and money in rework. So there is a whole industry that is dedicated in the ops world called for Lean Six Sigma and continuous improvement, that is dedicated to what is called Poka Yoke, which is basically the Japanese word for mistake proofing in your business. And so if anyone's ever heard of it, it's from the Lean Six Sigma principles from the Toyota manufacturing. So a lot of these principles come from Japan or have been founded there within Lean Six Sigma. There you go. Go that way. Go play with the toys. And so Poka Yoke is specifically what we're going to be talking about today, and how you can build this into your business, because you don't have to leave it up to chance. You can be proactive in your business, because a lot of the times I hear clients or people in my mastermind today, we're talking about, oh, I feel like I'm always reacting, or I'm getting interrupted, or I just have these big things that pop up in the middle of the day and I have to do them, and then I'm pushing things out and there's no predictability. Well, there could be predictability and there can be processes built around it. So that's where the SOPs come into play. And let's see if I can get through this live without Lila absolutely throwing a meltdown here, because she just wants to be on the screen and she's not going to be held the whole time. So now she's just going to throw a fit. But we have a ton of ways. So where was I? I was talking about, after Lila interrupted us. Hello, Vanessa. Hi. You just missed Lila. She's crawling into my cord, but she'll probably be back on. Oh, Lila. No. Come here. Okay. So we're talking about mistake proofing, and then what are some of the ways that your mistake, or how can you prevent mistakes from happening within your business that lead to that rework, so you don't have to waste more time or waste costs. So we are talking about, you can identify in your processes when there is chances for human error, because the more touch points that you have when in a process or in a system, just that is a good indicator. Whenever there's a manual step that happens in your business, there is a chance for human error. There is a lot of error, especially in communications. So if you're communicating something, the way you're communicating it could potentially lead to error, or information management. So things when you're copying things, if people are doing them manually. So back in my old corporate life, I did a lot of data analytics. So there was like a better way to enter in data, especially mass forms of data, to prevent the chance of me entering in manually and entering in errors. I would use formulas. I would use automations. That's like a pretty concrete example of building in a quick automation or function to like check my work. So building in your own checks within your processes, or having a second set of eyes in auditing the tasks at hand. So one client I had, this is a great example. We had built into our agency it was a 3-check process. So eventually we got to the point where we could go down to 2 checks, but there was, to prevent any errors going out our door, the contractors were doing the work. I was checking the work as the OBM, and then making sure it was simpler for the CEO to check the work before it went out to the client. And you're thinking, well, Emma, that's a lot of extra time to be building into a process. And yes, it is, but it was preventing a ton of edits or dissatisfaction coming back to the client. So we did build those in, and eventually we were able to hone in on that process and improve the process to the point of the client or the CEO not having to be the person in there checking. We were able to document, what she was looking for, having those standardized quality checkpoints in place. So building in those checks, or building in audits for the quality of the systems that you have, is one way to help minimize error when you have more than one set of eyes on it. So creating standardized work instructions. So that was originally my topic, like I mentioned before, was creating SOPs and how it'll save you time. Well, this is actually the root cause of it. And this is where it all ties back, is when you create standard work instructions. Lila, go play with your toys. When you create these standard work instructions, you are able to create also transparency amongst your team to help minimize those communications errors I was talking about earlier. So if you have people in Slack, or if you have, if you've ever played telephone as a kid, if you're just messaging your team members back and forth, or you don't have a centralized virtual headquarters or a centralized spot for client management or client communication, you are setting yourself up for communication errors like telephone. That was the example I was going with, but I wanted to explain that a little bit more. Of, you have one person starting with one message, and by the end it gets totally distorted into something else. So that is something that if you have those in your processes, or if you have that, that would be one optimal point to help minimize potential errors or miscommunication errors. So you could do this by building out some automations in the background to minimize that, or creating triggers and workflows within Zapier to send messages to people when something new happens, or even an email. That's one way I've done it with clients. And another example is, especially with my teams or agencies, we have a support email that multiple people have access to. So that's helping create that transparency. We have work instructions that go along with when you would need to access this or when to use this, to help create transparency and get more eyes on something. So it's also preventing a bottleneck. So my CEO or myself, if we're not in for a day, or we're unavailable at the moment, one of the team members can go into that support email that is CC'd on communications and get access to what they need. And it's building that culture of trust within your team. And then you're also building a culture to help minimize these risks or minimize these errors. You don't want to build a culture amongst your team where people feel uncomfortable to ask questions or feel uncomfortable to report issues. I've seen this especially in manufacturing environments. When I worked in corporate prior to Elf operations, there were companies that had cultures that, it was frowned upon to take extra time to report quality issues, or they wanted the quickest answer, maybe not always the honest answer of how long something was going to take. And, that is an environment that's going to create an increased amount of issues, and you're going to have decreased quality, and you're going to have a lot of rework. So that is one way. Thank you, Vanessa. I saw it a lot. It was terrible to see the kind of cultures that these teams and people were building, and then people hide things. That's the problem, is people start to hide issues, or they don't feel comfortable coming to their manager or their lead. So a lot of the remote teams that I'm on, we get into, I did a video on this on YouTube about like the 5 whys. Okay, like, why did this happen? What was the root cause? You should always ask why. And I didn't go over this, and I have the list somewhere, so I'm probably will post it in the show notes or in the comments. But there are psychological core points of why you make human errors. So, it could be an emotional thing. It could be lack of sleep. It could be, there was a couple other, I was looking at the list earlier because I was writing a post about it, but there are a lot of specific reasons that you could be having human errors. So that's something we want to look at as we're building our culture and building our team is, is this person having a personal issue? Is it like a one-time thing, or is it ongoing? Like, because that could affect, their fit for your team, or, their fit for your working environment, because maybe that role doesn't fit them anymore, in the sense of work-life balance. That's something that I've seen happen with a lot of my remote teams is, they might have missed a deadline, or they might miss something going on because they're distracted at home, or they are distracted in something else, and they don't feel comfortable coming to ask you questions. So I've seen that happen where team members will miss deadlines, and I'll go to them and I ask, like, hey, what happened? Like, what wasn't clear enough? Like, but they didn't understand my instructions. And if I'm a new on the team, they usually will say, like, I didn't know. I have to reiterate to them, you can ask me questions. I want you to come to me. I want to prevent this. We want to make our deadlines in a like fair but assertive way. So that is one Lila. That is one way to help reduce your errors, is to build that culture. And then I kind of talked about this before about building in checks and audits, but you can implement your systems to help automate to reduce that human error, especially with data transferring or information management. Yes, if you can hear, Lila has now pressed the karaoke box that Charlotte had in here. But creating those automations or minimizing those human touch points where they make sense is going to help you reduce your rework and chance for human error. And then going back to simplifying all tasks and processes that you have or roles, you want to be super clear, because the more complex you make something, it's human nature. We are going to shy away from it. And people are going to get confused. And so the simpler, the better. That's kind of where my simple ops framework comes from. Actually, the simple ops framework is tied to all of these, because we talk about standardizing to help minimize these risks. We talk about continuous improvement mindset and like finding ways to improve and reduce this chance for human error, and then managing your metrics and managing your team. Oh, yeah. I know, Vanessa. I really wish I had more people to help while we're working. Like, I have the best idea. So, if you're watching live on YouTube, my friend Vanessa commented and said, "I wish we live near each other so we can support each other with babies and business." And I think that's something that is a missed market opportunity, is like co-working spaces or just like networking groups for moms until you could bring your babies along. A friend of mine, actually, she runs a baby daycare for weddings, running a baby. Yeah, I know, a membership. I have so many ideas about this. But she runs a daycare. She runs like event daycare, basically. So you can hire her for your wedding. You can hire her for a big corporate event. It's such a great business model. She's in Florida though, but so many opportunities. And I'm so glad for everyone who tuned in. I'm trying to keep these short, and Lila is obviously being a little crazy, so we're gonna have to hop off here. So if you're watching the replay, feel free to drop comments below. Check out the other videos I reference on my YouTube channel about problem solving and the 5 whys. If you have specific questions, feel free to DM me or comment below, and I'm happy to help answer personalized questions, because I know that sometimes you have an example in your business and you need to address that and to understand kind of these concepts. So thank you for everyone who joined live on Instagram, and thank you for everyone who's watching the replay. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Ooh, Lila.